of all the things that you could have written a detox manual on, most of the things that people kind of consider that they need to be detoxed on is things like cigarettes and alcohol, drug, the kind of hardcore A-class drugs, those types of
Hmm.
things. People don't really think they need to be detoxed from sugar. So, of all the things you could have written a detox manual of, what was it that made you feel you wanted to choose sugar as a subject?
Yeah, well, that's a really great question. And I think there are there's a twofold answer to that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
first off, just after studying nutrition for a while, I realized that, more people than not are really addicted to sugar. And they don't necessarily think of sugar in the terms that I'm talking about sugar. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people think about sugar just purely as candy or sweets.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I approach what sugar really is just anything that breaks down to sugar in your body. And so, personally, sugar was always the toughest thing for me to battle. And regulating my blood, I personally haven't had a lot of struggles with drugs or alcohol or cigarettes or those types of things. So I think that people who work in nutrition, we tend to gravitate towards helping those who have struggles that are similar to things that we've been through, because we can really connect on a certain level of, yes, I've been there. I know how this feels.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really that twofold reason, between noticing that the way that people eat today is really so focused on foods that are very, very dense in carbohydrates, which is all sugar to the body. And then that second level of that's really what I struggled with for so long. So to me, I figured after I, studied nutrition for a while, working with a whole food-based program to sort of guide myself through it
Mm-hmm.
and really get myself on an even keel with the foods I was eating, and approach it this sort of detox concept really, you connect with people who understand what that means. But realistically, this is really a program where we just get people eating and, eating whole foods and avoiding sweet foods or those that have a high glycemic load. So meaning
Mm-hmm.
they have a really significant impact on blood sugar. So it's not just what people think of as, sugar or sweet foods. It's anything that really has a significant impact on blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And the aim with the manual, the detox manual, which is around 40 pages, and half of that is just information and tips and tricks and, food lists and what to eat and how to kind of do it. On the other half is filled with recipes to follow, really easy recipes. Nothing in there is too complicated. And the aim is really to help someone learn which foods will affect them in a certain way over the course of 3 weeks, and
Mm-hmm.
teach them, with even blood sugar levels, and teach them some new habits and different ways of eating to avoid a regular basis, even after the disease is over. So it's
Mm-hmm.
about, just making a shift to these different kinds of foods, but also creating new habits for a person, so that, it's not just a quick fix. It really is helping them get started on a new diet and lifestyle plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what if someone said to you, okay, hey Diane, I don't need a sugar detox because I only eat fruits and dried fruit, which are fine because they're all natural. What would you say to what
Yeah,
would you say to
well,
those kind
I
of people?
that is a great one because people do say that all the time. And the bottom line is that even fruit breaks down into sugar in our bodies. All
Mm,
carbohydrates are sugar to our body, which that's not to say that they're all bad for us, but relying on fruit as a large portion of your calories in a day means relying on sugar. And so
right.
it does have its place. There are tons of micronutrients and phytonutrients that we can get from fruit. And when we eat seasonally, we absolutely can get benefit. But for the most part, sugar is available to us year round in great abundance through fruit.
Mm,
And it's not something that really would have been available to us thousands of years ago in the same quantity as it is now. So it's just getting people to kind of reset a little bit and
mm,
recognize how much they're sort of relying on those foods. And then another part of it too is that fructose, which is fruit sugar, has actually been recently explored further for its impact on obesity in this country, and throughout the world. And a great video that I would recommend that people watch on the dangers of fructose in the diet is called Sugar, the Bitter Truth, which is available through YouTube. And it's,
mm.
it's pretty,
Ah.
yeah, it's pretty long, but if somebody's really interested, interested in the subject of, okay, why is fruit really not the best thing to eat all day long? It's in, by the name of Robert Lustig, and he's actually based here in the San Francisco area. Fructose impacts obesity, and it's quite eye-opening. It's a really, really interesting talk, and I don't claim to specialize in fructose metabolism, but I can speak from my own experience in saying that the less fruit I eat, the less I feel I'm relying on sugar. And actually, I'm not as hungry, because when we eat too much sugar, we actually spur our body to feel hungry quicker. So it is an interesting thing. And I, in a sense, outside of all the sort of biological impact or physiological impact of the sugar in the body, I just like to challenge somebody's habits for the most part. People just, anything that we rely on that heavily every single day, I always like to challenge somebody. If somebody told me, give up eggs, I would say, okay, you know what? I'm going to try it for 3 weeks, see what it's like, see what I need to do. And so that's the other part of it, just as someone who's always, challenging someone with their nutrition or tinkering and really getting people to not just sort of pigeonhole themselves and rely on one type of food all the time. I like to really challenge someone to change it up and really see what's out there and how they can feel eating different foods potentially. So, yeah, that's where I come from with the fruit issue.
Cool. All right. So most people know, even if they don't want to admit it because they don't want to give up their junk foods and things like that, most people know that whole foods generally do taste better once we've retrained our taste buds or got over, nutrient deficiencies and things like that. And they sustain us longer. They don't give us as many negative symptoms as the processed foods and things like that. So why do you think, in your opinion, that society has such difficulties eating more whole foods and, staying pigeonholed in eating the foods that are really highly processed and have got so much sugar in them and those types of things? What would you, in your experience, what do you think is the sticking point in our society regarding that kind of thing?
Yeah, and I think this is a really good question too. And I personally think the bottom line is convenience, and I think it's convenience and also habits that people have formed over, years of their maybe adolescence and early adulthood, where, that's the time when we're expected to learn how to take care of ourselves and how to choose the right foods. And, I thank my parents all the time because I feel so lucky to have learned how to cook and prepare foods, and not only to know how to do it, but to love doing it. And I recognize that not everybody feels that way about cooking and preparing foods. And for me, it's very ritualistic, very calming. I really, that's not to say every single day I love spending hours and hours cooking. I like the idea of, I'm going to do this for a little while, prepare some food, and know that I have something good to eat for the next few days. But we're in such a fast-paced world now that we've come to expect everything to be at our fingertips and fast and easy. And I think that the price we pay is that processed foods are what's most prevalent and most available when we're on the go. And a small amount of planning ahead can help pretty much anybody eat well and keep a whole foods-based diet. And this is actually one of the topics that I just talked about last week on that Healthy Nutrition on the Go talk, where just really explaining a few different things people can do at home. For example, like, hard boiling a dozen eggs one day, and you've got snacks for several days that you can eat something healthy and whole food, on the go.
Interesting.
Yeah, and just, you can do that while you're...
That's such a good idea.
Yeah, you can do that while you're, on your computer, and it's just put some water. You've got 12 little snacks there ready to go. Yeah, and another tip I like to give people too is that, you can make your own little trail mix with some raw nuts and just a little bit of dried fruit in there, or even get in some grass-fed jerky, which you can find in a lot of different places now. Especially resources online, but, making your own little snack mix that you can just put in little baggies and carry with you if you need it, just thinking ahead a little bit goes a long way to, having something convenient to eat. And I think people just need to start thinking a little bit more ahead. But yeah, the bottom line is just that it's a matter of convenience and what's out there as far as what's available to grab all the time. It's always that processed food. So yeah, I mean, I think that people just fall back on it because it's what's the easiest.
I think, yeah, what I have noticed is that sometimes I think that people's lack of energy makes changing their current routine just seem too much hard work, but then it becomes
Yeah,
a cycle. So once someone
absolutely.
does take that first step and drop some of the processed food, then their body, and take on some more whole food, then they get more energy to spend a bit more time doing some cooking, so they don't have to grab something convenient, and then they've got even more whole foods, and it just kind of starts a cycle that
Absolutely.
it helps itself. It's self-perpetuating,
Yeah.
the benefits people get. Is that what you would
Yeah,
you find that as well?
that's a great point. And that's even something that as a nutritionist, as somebody who knows what to do every day, of course there are days or weeks where, things kind of slide off track for me too, just for different
Yeah,
reasons, if I'm
yeah,
traveling
same.
somewhere. And and I find absolutely that just starting over, and I always like to start over with breakfast. If I just had a day
Yeah,
that wasn't really on stay, I make sure I have my foods that I want to eat for breakfast, get started with a good breakfast, and, that whole next day, it just feels so much better. And, that is where I start actually with a lot of people, is getting them to eat a proper breakfast. And then it's just sets the day up so well. So yeah, that's a great point. It does become a cycle that feeds into itself either positively or negatively.